What up, my fellow Survivor lovers? Welcome to Survivor Historian, part of the Challenge Historian podcast feed. I am your host and born-again Survivor superfan, Jacob Hollaball, and with me, as he is every week, at least every week that I am able to show up, is the great and powerful Tony Lance. Tony, how we doing this week?
Not too bad. The kids are much healthier than they were last week. Last week was totally on me, so now we're like almost even.
Sure, you can be kind and say that.
I will. So everybody is mostly healthy again. We did a little 2K marathon that they had in Halifax, about an hour away from us yesterday. So Malcolm got to be in the stroller for most of it. Walked for little spurts while we got Aubrey out at the very end just so she could like run across the finish line. But Malcolm alternated between stroller, very short bursts of running, and sitting on my shoulders. So I really made use of the 2K. Malcolm, not so much.
Future Survivor 63 players. I don't know how many seasons they do.
Sounds about right.
2 seasons a year. So no, I think we'd maybe need more than that. That's only like 7 years from now.
True. Yeah, knows? And he would have to be at least, I think they said 16, although they're not really doing that.
Maybe Survivor 3, the reboot of Survivor after Jeff quits, and we have to wait like 6 years for them to reboot it, and it's Survivor, Survivor 1 all over again. So maybe they could be on the original Survivor 1 version 2. Survivor Canada exclusively. Maybe Canada just says F you, Jeff Probst, we can do our own. We win the show more often anyways.
There's a Survivor Quebec.
There is?
Yeah, I had no idea, but there is a Survivor Quebec. And then
it must not respectfully be that good if it's
in French, so it wouldn't have a larger market outside of Canada. I still remember it was probably back within the first maybe 10 seasons of Survivor when there was this running gag that was going around about Survivor Canada, and it was basically like in wherever they could find that was coldest, and it was done in the winter, and they were just like, anybody who came from other than Canada would just quit. And at first there was enough, it looked real enough that it could be. And then as you read down to the article, you're like, no, this is completely fabricated.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's always been interesting which second versions take off. Because like, I know Big Brother Canada is, according to my Twitter timeline of people that care about Big Brother, is like equally as good as the US one, and people are just as invested. So very strange, but we are here to talk Survivor US, of course, the regular Survivor. Although who knows, now I'm hearing rumblings of US versus Australia. Is that a thing that's like people think is actually going to happen?
Yep.
Like a real crossover?
They're doing it's going to be a shortened season, but really Survivor US or Survivor Australia, I want to say, is like 54 or 55 days anyway. So they could shorten their season and it would still be a 39-day season of Survivor easily. But yeah, apparently they're going to cast legends and do returning like from USA and Australia.
That's where all the old people need to go. Let's keep Survivor 50 to new era returnees and let all the old legend people go play the long version of the game over in Australia. That sounds wonderful. That seems like a perfect solution to our current debate within the Survivor fandom community.
Sandra and Russell have both played Australia on Survivor.
Yeah, I saw that. So like, yeah, that's great. There's all your old school teams. Send them over there and let new era folks do it a second time here. And then we don't have to listen to, I'm just already dreading the like first 2 episodes of season 50 when some older player is just like, this is going to be so easy. And the whole, all the storyline being Jeff trying to convince the older players that like 26 days is actually harder or whatever he said. So I don't need any of that. So
no,
that's our Survivor 50 takes for you.
Boom.
So now we'll move to our Survivor 46, episode 11 and 12. We obviously missed last week. Apologies for that. We will cover a couple quick, the 2 biggest storylines really coming out of episode 11, and then mostly focus on episode 12 here and the lead up to the finale this week, which should be great. No programming reminders really, other than All Stars 4 coverage continues for those challenge watchers as well. Definitely check that out on Wednesdays and over the weekend for challenge fandom. Anything else other than those All Stars 4 recaps right now?
Nothing more than the All-Star 4 recaps, but Alex Brizard of The Circle and Two Dudes Watch Cartoons was our guest on Friday when we recorded, so he'll be on the recap for this weekend. He normally comes on around mid-season. So that was a lot of fun, and it should be a really good episode. I want to say it did actually drop. I saw the promo art, but I forget whether I saw the promo art because Karina said, here's the promo art, or whether whether we posted it. If not, it'll be up probably by the time people listen to this.
Yeah, well, Alex is great and wonderful, but Rick's being a little, I'm guessing he was behind it, a little tricky by throwing the like surprise guest and using a Taylor Swift gift. And I mean,
that was Karina.
Oh, well, Karina, I mean, come on. You can't be, obviously Taylor Swift wasn't joining your guys' podcast. If that happened, then I don't know.
If that happened,
I'm moving to Rick and Karina's house and being like, I'm not just on the show now. I just live with you. I don't know how you did that, but I'm just gonna live with you until I figure it out. So yeah, that's what's going on here. Again, episode 11, episode 12. We'll hit awards as always, and then talk some finale talk at the end to figure out who is going to win this thing, because I do think it is up in the air a little bit more than we've got a couple favorites, but still a little bit more up in the air, I feel like, than the last couple seasons have gone, at least as far as who's going to be targeted, who do we think is going to be going out at 5 and 4, and then who can ultimately win. So without further ado, let's dive into it all, starting with episode 11. Two things to cover here. The first of which has to be that Maria, over the course of episode 11, and then we will continue talking about it with episode 12, but becomes a little bit of the villain of the season. She almost, I mean, I would dare to say, at least becomes equal. Her and Q become, they do in episode 11 kind of become the duo now more than her and Charlie. But I would say she even almost overtakes him in villainry by her decision upon winning another immunity and the reward that comes with it to go ahead and start her speech with, I'm going to take the people who are most in need of food and are doing the worst. And she picks Ben first, and we're like, okay, that's checks out to some degree. He's in the group of 3 people, I would say, that fit this description. Fine. And then says, will you guys beg for it? And everyone mostly says, no, we won't. Thanks. Not going to do that. Venus and Kenzie say, you don't have to pick us, which we later find out via press and exit interviews was like 10 minutes in when they were like, this is ridiculous. And so
same
we're
with
just
Charlie.
and same with Charlie, which leaves Liz and Q and poor Liz, who is still not eaten. And we have seen have Applebee's ripped from her and everything that transpired there. And Maria says, go ahead and play rock, paper, scissors, you two. And Q gladly says, I'll play, and plays and wins. How shocked were you by all of this? How bad of a move? I assume there's no way you're going to zag and be like, this was masterful gameplay.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on Maria's choice of rock, paper, scissors?
It was just bad all around. I don't know. She was playing such a good game up until that point.
And everyone liked her.
Yeah, nobody had any issues with Maria other than the fact that they knew that she was a threat. But then to say Kenzie and Charlie stepped back, and then it was between those 3, and then she was like, I think that might have been when she said her whole spiel about I'm gonna give it to the most blah 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 and the one who needs it the most and yada yada, and then discounts Venus from the edit. So we then learned later that Venus had already sort of stepped back. But
again, out of annoyance though, of we've been standing here forever. Let's get this moving.
And then it only left Q and Liz, which seems like a very logical decision. But then to say, okay, you two rock, paper, scissors for it is totally not making a decision. She asked everybody to state their case, which is really so that she can discount others easily based on their case. And then go rock, paper, scissors. You're taking all of the decision making out of a very difficult decision out of your hands and leaving it up to chance / the other players. And I mean, Liz even said to Q, like, please go rock. And then he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, there's so many opportunities for everybody there to do the right thing, and nobody did the right thing, really. And I now, like, listening to it after the fact, I now understand why it was a matter of the longest decision that's been made, because when it happened I was like, this isn't really that long. Like, people have made like this, stretch this out before.
But yeah, it sounds
brutal.
Like, yet again, respect to Jeff, who has not been lying or hyperbolizing anything to us all season long, which in his position is an easy thing to do, and lots of hosts can or will be told to do that if they don't do it themselves. And so I believed him in the moment when he said this is like the longest this has ever taken, that like, oh, they definitely fast forwarded here, and we found out they did. I mean, even if it's so bad that if you said Maria, the moment she won, said, you guys do a rock, paper, scissors tournament, I truly can't make this decision. That would be the best version of doing rock, paper, scissors.
Yes.
And that would be horrible. That would be like, you've got to be kidding me, Maria. And then the second part of it, it's not even that she doesn't just immediately, it's such a layup. We'll talk in episode 12. Charlie's immediately like, Liz obviously is the first pick for this food reward, because obviously you should do that for game and social standing and the whole thing else. But it's Liz versus Q. And not only is Q eaten, but strategically, Q is now your new number one, and you should split up. You shouldn't bring your number one to the thing when only half of you go. You should leave that person at camp. So, like, strategically, it was not the right pick to, curry favor and bring numbers. Socially within the game, it was obviously not the right pick. And then it was also horrible execution of bad picks on top of it. It couldn't have been a bigger mess.
He's eaten a lot, and, like, he is not like struggling for food, and that was the whole pretext of why she was getting them to go rock, paper, scissors in the first place. And then she's just like, okay, the person who arguably needs it the most versus the person who arguably needs it the worst. Rock, paper, scissors, go.
Yeah, and Q had I don't blame him for being I'll play and go. But also, when Liz looks at you and says, please throw rock, and you did what, again, which I'm fine with everything he did in not picking Liz before. But in that moment, you've got a chance to win this back and fully flip. Like, wait a minute, everyone's like really pissed at Maria right now. Like, I could kind of make up for what happened before and be like, all right, I'll play rock and like let you win. And then suddenly Maria's, you've really taken a step up. But so it's a complete mess. But they get to eat the world's worst pizza, respectfully to the wonderful production crew and everyone that works on Survivor and the food. But it is a running thing in the Survivor community that the pizza looks not great, and the cast members say, it's not really pizza. It's kind of it's great because you're starving on the beach. It's still fantastic. But if you had this at home, you would probably be like, I think I don't know that I would may necessarily eat it, but boy, did they eat it. They eat a lot of it. Ben and Q put down a lot of pizza.
I think Q said he ate 23 slices.
Now, I kind of believed him too. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. There was like 4 or 5 boxes. There's probably like 6 slices in each of those. Like, I don't know. There probably was like 30 or 40 pieces of pizza. And I think Maria probably is like, I can eat like 7 pieces before I throw up. And I bet Q's like, I'll eat everyone that's available. Maria is becoming villainized in a way. And then the other big story of the episode is obviously Venus, who I'm going to try to not get too emotional and talk about. I was so upset. This was just these 2 episodes, as good as these 2 episodes were, I needed a Venus and Q in the final 3. It just would have been the most amazing thing. But Venus finds an idol. Everyone's looking for an idol. Everyone somehow either knows that Tiff went out with an idol or Hunter went out with an idol, like knows that the idols are going to be available. Everyone's looking, and Venus finds it against all odds, because she's doing her kind of typical, I'm going to follow smart strategy of I'm just going to follow the person that I think will find it so I don't have to work that hard. But then she chooses to work hard for a second and she finds it herself, and she finds it completely on her own with like no one around. So she has the opportunity to hide it. And at first, she makes the really good move. It's one of my favorite moments of the episode. She's like giddy. She's all like happy. She like literally stops herself in the middle of the walkway. Is like, you got to chill. And then like calms herself, looks at the camera, turns and walks away, but gives like a little skip. And she's like, I'm going to chill, but I still got one more little skip in me. And she plays it off brilliantly to Kenzie. Her first interaction, then she does the smart thing. You go and you keep looking. And she goes with Kenzie. She plays it off great. And I'm like, oh my God, she's got this. Like she's got it in the bag. And then she talks to Charlie and she completely blows it. Anything so far incorrect reading of the situation here?
No, all I will say is I think Liz made the best move by continuing to sleep at camp. Because so far idols have proved to not be helpful in this game. And she got some extra Z's when everybody else was pushing themselves to try to find an idol.
And it's just fun because it's Liz doing it, which is great. But it's also when everyone's looking, I am like, I don't know if I want to find it in front of like the whole group. That does seem difficult in general. Not, bad omen that it is this season, notwithstanding. When it's truly on this layer, like we're all gonna go look for idols, okay? Deal. I'm like, I don't want to find it. Like it seems like Venus was pretty lucky to find it when no one else was around, given that it is a like full search moment. But I'm getting so excited. I'm like, this is the best thing that could happen for the show. Venus has an idol. No one knows. This is gonna be amazing. She's gonna do something fun with it. It's just gonna be a great tribal. And then she talks to Charlie, and she just completely blows it by saying, I forget how she words it to him. Like,
that she has,
I've got something up my sleeve.
Yeah, like something that'll help us moving forward or something like that.
Yeah, and pitches him on like, if you do what I want this vote, I'll tell you my tricks I've got. And he's like very astutely like, so you have an idol or an advantage? Like what? other what you have? Like you wouldn't word it this way if it's just like you have information of someone wants to vote someone out. Like there's like 7 of us. Like we kind of all know who everyone more or less wants to vote out. And do you think at that point, once she's like kind of already blown it, should she just be like, okay, yeah, I have an idol. I don't know why I was being weird. Sorry about the last 45 seconds, but yes, I have an idol.
Yeah, I would say yes, especially because of how it turned out. But I would say like once you get into that situation, I think she was way too close to it. She said in exit press like she knew that was where she blew up her game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she would have had that knowledge in the moment. I think she may have thought that she was like doing it okay, but I would absolutely just be like, yeah, you know what? That was dumb. I have an idol. I'm going to play it tonight.
Yeah, and I also think that maybe she didn't fully have that realization until watching it and then doing the exit press, because if you have that realization and you're like, oh, shoot, I just kind of pooped the bed here, then you probably are much more inclined to play the idol that night. If you're like, wait a minute, I think I botched this. I don't know that I did this appropriately. But they go to tribal, and after Maria again is safe here. Or wait, yeah, this is the episode Maria's safe. No, this episode Charlie is safe.
Charlie is safe. Yeah.
So Maria is the obvious target, and everyone is mad at her, but it becomes a Venus versus Maria, and who's going to side with who, and everyone sides with voting out Venus, and she does not play her idol, and she, in that moment, becomes the 4th of the season and the 3rd in a row to go home with an idol in her pocket, after the great foreshadowing earlier in the episode of her telling Kenzie it would be the worst thing in the world to go home with an idol in your pocket. And we lose. I mean, this season has a bunch of stars and a bunch of obvious picks for like first round draft picks to play again on season 50. But I would say Venus is right up there, just below the immortal Q as far as like characters of this season. And she goes home, or well, goes to the jury. So we still will get one more moment from Venus, which is great. This jury is like going to be an all time. Just anticipating each one of them getting a chance to talk at Final Tribal Council is going to be really, really great. But yeah, it seems like the theme is going to continue into episode 12, but I for sure, there was a moment where I was like, Venus not only, like, we've seen Tiff and Hunter go home with the idols, and if they would have played them, they could have definitely were in positions to go to the top of the leaderboard, but we're still early enough on. It wasn't like they had a path to winning this game. They just had a path to the top of the leaderboard, which might not be a good place to be, where, when they were at 8 or 9 people left. Venus was starting to be in the position where I'm like, you have a path to do something really good here and be at the top of the leaderboard with 6 left, which is starting to be a really good place to be. And then obviously we'll talk about in episode 12 that Q takes that even further. But any final words on Venus, or whether, this was their chance to get Maria. I thought they had all assessed that she was the threat, and now they don't like her. And Kenzie, Ben, and Liz are the 3, real swing votes in this of like sticking with like, nah, we want to get Venus out over Maria. That feels like a kind of obvious audience view is like, that's the incorrect move, but I don't know. I was kind of surprised a little bit.
I feel like, because it was Charlie who kind of flipped the girls to vote Venus, because she was part of their crew of people that were back at camp. So I feel like maybe at that moment, Charlie didn't feel like that was a good time to take her out. And possibly because, like, obviously going into episode 12, like, that's the main plot point. But at that point, you really have to figure out when, if you're going to take out the person rather than sit next to them, when to do that, when you still have, like, a path forward. And I feel like for Charlie, it wasn't right at that point, but as soon as Venus was out of the mix, he felt like it was the right move. And it could even be the matter that, like, he may not have felt that Venus was a trustworthy enough ally to count on that vote to get out Maria, and it could just blow up. So I'm 50-50 on it. I think that Charlie made the best move for him in that moment, especially when you look at the scene episode 12, where Ben and Charlie are talking about how do we position ourselves to go forward. I think that they needed that one more vote with that one less person in order to feel comfortable with being able to navigate to the final.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
but I miss
with
Venus.
that, let's go. Yes, Venus will be severely missed, and I look forward to her on the final Tribal Council and hopefully on season 50. But to kind of segue into episode 12 opens with Ben admitting that as he claims in person and in the confessionals, accidentally voted for Kenzie, which I don't know how you can accidentally vote for someone. It's pretty difficult, as Kenzie says, it wasn't Kenzie or Kelsey or whatever where you accidentally miss a letter. It was Kenzie or Venus. And my quick question if Venus would have played her idol, it would have meant that it wouldn't have been Venus gets Q out because Venus voted for Q. There would have been this random Kenzie vote that we find out was supposed to be, Q was supposed to vote for Kenzie as the like backup, and Ben was supposed to vote for Venus. So like the amount of votes ended up going the right way. It was just Q was doing shenanigans and not doing what everyone asked, which honestly would have left him vulnerable if if Ben votes the way he's supposed to. Like that would have just been amazing. So but if Venus would have played her idol and they would have had to revote on Kenzie and Q, do you think there's any chance that everyone looks around as like, well, screw it, like, we love you, Kenzie, but we just got this like opportunity to randomly blindside and get you out of the game, and we're not that concerned about Q still right now? Like, do you think there's any chance they all look at each other and like, screw it, like, let's vote for Kenzie?
It depends if the edit that we're seeing is truthful to how it is on the island, because she is so charismatic and is so seamlessly integrated in any group that she sits down with that she's a huge threat to win. She has been since the merge, but I don't know how easy it is to spot it on the beach. But if so, 100% that's your opportunity, because you're going to have many opportunities that everyone wants to get rid of Q.
God, that would have been. I would love to know if anyone would have, because do they get to like talk much if there's a revote?
A little
they
bit,
don't really, right?
They get to I believe they get like an extra minute or something to kind of.
Yeah, it would have been fascinating to see if anyone would have. I think they probably all would have voted for Q, but it would be interesting to see if anyone would have went the Kenzie route or what the conversation would have been. But they don't, and so she just gets the one vote, her first vote from Ben on accident, which she takes credit for. And I'm sorry to say, I know you love him to death, but Ben is the only thing I'm confident about in the finale is Ben is a 0 vote finalist, because great guy, but there's just been nothing gameplay wise, and now this is the first thing I'm gonna remember about his gameplay is like, you were the one that accidentally voted for your best friend on the island.
I appreciate how much Charlie and Kenzie just continually gave him shit for it throughout the entirety of the episode. Like, they would randomly be talking about something else, and then they'd bring it up.
But it was that made it very clear that, like, hey buddy, like, this can be fine, and we can actually be friends and like kind of bust your chops about it, because we have no worries of you beating us in this game. So it is what it is. Oftentimes 0 vote finalists are the most lovable on the season, and Ben is nothing but lovable.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry I didn't come to your show last Thursday. I could have went and seen him play here in Chicago, man. But I didn't see about it until the day of, and then was like, I don't know that I can go to that bar tonight. So but maybe next time, we'll see. If you're check Ben's Instagram, he's out and about on a little mini tour right now, so go watch him shred. Reward challenge here. Charlie wins the reward challenge, and the main question with the reward challenges every season, especially the later you get in them, is do you want to win or not? There is very different opinions between cast members that have played before. I think we've talked about it before, but I don't remember where you stand. I am firmly on the, like, if you're Charlie or Maria in this instance, and you're kind of the ones who have been winning most of the things, you probably don't want to win a pure reward challenge. But Charlie tries his best every single time, and he wins this one. Where do you stand on should Charlie have won this or wanted to win this, or reward challenges in general? Should you try to win them? I'm
in the Tyson Apostle camp. The best bet is to be taken, not win, and have to make the decision. Because if you're taken, you can't really, like, it's not your decision, and you can kind of say, like, well, what was I supposed to do? It's not like I can just give it up, as Q has illustrated. But you don't, like, that is a terrible position to be in, especially because normally the letters from home, unless it's specifically a challenge that says from the outset you're getting letters from home, it's normally something where they're there and then they bring out the letters. So it was, I don't know whether this was pre-planned, that they were always going to say that the letters were part of the deal, or whether it was brought in. And I know that they say that they have the season completely mapped out, like, months and months in advance. But this is a small thing that doesn't really, like, change much from the mechanics of production. So them saying that the letters, the letters from home were at this reward and part of it, like Jeff said, it super overcomplicates Charlie's decision, because he was going to take the pizza losers. It was going to be him and Liz and Kenzie from the outset, no questions asked.
Yeah, and that was definitely different as far as Jeff waiting until someone had won to say that this is also part, and not either tell them before the challenge or just it happened when you're at the sanctuary and you go back and tell everyone and they're all sad.
Yeah.
Which I thought I'm into, because I do think there's so much Survivor knowledge that I'm okay if Jeff's response to that would be like, they should kind of know at this point. Yeah. Like, there's only 6 of them, and we've never not done some version of family visits or letters or videos or something. I forget who it was on Twitter, a former cast member though, that did point out like they did Zoom videos in like 2005, and like that it's kind of ridiculous that that these are letters versus you get to Zoom with your loved one for 5 minutes, which I mean, I like the letter aspect, but it did make me like be like, yeah, that is actually kind of a little weird.
It probably comes down to sponsorship, because before it was the family visits were like sponsored by Sprint, where they were able to get like phone calls from home or messages from home and stuff like that. So it could just be that they don't have an active sponsor with a like streaming, like a video streaming.
Well, you don't have to say how you're doing it. You could say a video call from home and block the logo on the television or whatever. Anyways, Charlie picks Liz and Kenzie, and again, the Liz pick obvious. And if he wouldn't have done it, it would have been hilarious in a really shitty way.
It's just like more and more people losing Liz's vote if she sits on the jury.
Yeah, Liz could be the first jury member to abstain if she ends up in the jury. I'm just like, I'm not doing it, Jeff. I'll give you my own $1 million if I don't have to vote for these people. But then the second pick, he picks Kenzie, and Maria is very clearly not happy about this. Did you have any issue with his pick? As you said before, he picks it kind of based on we're the three that didn't go last time.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go this time. And obviously the letters mean, respectfully the same to everyone, whether, there's one mother out here or not.
Yeah. And I mean, like I have kids. I know how hard it is to just go to work for the day and then not hang out with them. So I can only imagine being in a game like this and not having any connection or contact with them. But at the end of the day, like, Charlie had planned to take the Pizza Losers, which is a great name and what I will continue to call them. And Maria mentioned it in one of her confessionals that her and Charlie had agreed to never take each other on rewards. So that is even more so exactly why he wouldn't take her. And to your point, it leaves her back at camp. Now in this situation, it doesn't totally work the right way, but Kenzie's wedding was supposed to be the day prior. And Liz has a daughter, so
that was Kenzie dropping that nugget was very smart. I'm sure maybe it had been brought up the day prior, I'm sure on the beach in conversation or whatever, but was right up there with the Liz Applebee's thing of like, yeah, you should get picked. Like, you do need to throw, if someone has that kind of reasoning, you might want to throw strategy and politicalness out of it, like, and just go with like, oh shit, they kind of backed me into a corner here. I kind of have to pick you if you've got that kind of reason.
And I like how she did it too, though, because she said like Jeff specifically asked her what she was feeling, which probably means that he asked every single person. And Kenzie was the one who actually had a reason, and it would have swayed the decision or could have. But where she said like, you asked me how I'm feeling, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm living with. This is not me saying you need to pick me sort of thing. And whether that is gameplay or whether that is truth, it was really well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And it gets her her letters and gets her their Chinese food, right?
Yeah.
Chinese takeout. I forgot what it was. Which all looked delicious. And also
I would have gone for that. Like, I know how much it would hurt afterwards, but I know how good it would have tasted in the moment.
Yeah, which there were some interesting questions that came out as Liz dove through what looked like all of it. But not here to question Liz ever because she's the best. So they're enjoying that while back on the beach, Maria is just having it. She's just really down bad. We didn't mention that at the start of this episode. She ends up, is it there or later on? No, it's after people come back from eating that she weirdly doesn't make, but ends up on the boat crying with everyone.
No, that was right when they came back with like after the Venus vote out.
Yeah, and I don't know why it mattered to me that like to Liz's face or whatever, but like saying how her character assassination, character was
Yeah.
attacked. And I was like, Venus didn't say anything inaccurate. She just filled in the jury on the fact that you made Liz and Q do rock, paper, scissors after saying you were going to take the people most in need of food. So
Yeah.
like she didn't really attack your character. She just said that was a shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
And it was. I'm sorry. But then here she's back on I think she's laying on the boat during the portion where she's
I think so.
on and off shaking with like anger and sadness and emotion over not getting to read the letters from home. And again, as you said, she fills us in. Her and Charlie did the smart thing that great duos know is the another thing out of Tyson's playbook, but I think a lot of people's playbook of, if you have a number one, you discuss in advance. We don't take each other on rewards because we need to be split up from a strategic standpoint. So in my mind, I'm like, I know it's emotional and, you really wanted those letters, but this seems like a little bit overboard for how upset she is. And it feels like everyone is kind of on the same page of like, yeah, it's a little like, come on, Maria,
Yeah. I think the way that I have framed it so that it makes sense to me, and honestly, like, every person is different, so I totally get that I'm only working with a very limited amount of information, but I think the way that she framed it about how like this was the reward that she always planned on winning, wanted to win, and then not only that, but as soon as she would have known that Charlie won, she knows she's not going because they've already had an agreement where he's not taking her. So it's not like they've had a side conversation of, if it's the family visit, maybe take me. She knows as soon as she's lost it that she's actually lost it. She has no chance of being taken. And I think she's equally as mad at herself for not winning that challenge, because she is doing fairly well in challenges and she just didn't pull it out on that one. So I think that's, to me, I think that's some of that fuel for all of that emotion, is that she had the opportunity to win it. And then based on the decisions that she's made in the game, on top of not winning it, by aligning with Charlie and by having that conversation with Charlie, that means that there was no way that she was even going to be taken as an extra person, where most other people probably would have, because she is a parent and like that's the situation.
Yeah. And at least in this instance, only Q is even aware that she's like going through it this much, because I don't know where Ben is during this part, but we don't see Ben. He's probably not too inclined to want to hang out with Q and Maria, so like I get it. But Maria and Q are seemingly on their own on the beach because Ben is doing whatever he's doing, and they decide to look for an idol, and they are successful, which as crazy it is of how many people have left with an idol in their pocket. It's also pretty crazy how well they're finding these idols, or at least these back-to-back episodes where it's like they just put this idol back on the island probably this morning, or overnight, and someone finds it right away.
Now it could have been Hunters, because if Hunters and Tiffs both went out, because I don't think that anybody fully believed that Hunter had the idol when he just started saying he did right before they left. So it could be that they knew when Tiff went out that she had one, because they've known for a while that she's had one. So they went to look. But as soon as one is found, then they're like, oh, well, I guess that's it. When in fact, there could be two kicking around out there.
Yeah. And again, Venus found hers. Everyone was looking. So I guess it's not that crazy that like if everyone's looking, someone finds it. Q ends up kind of being the only one looking. Maria is, but like Q's doing a lot of the legwork here. So for him to find the idol that just likely got put back in that like day or night is pretty crazy. But he finds it, and I have the same feeling I had one episode prior of like, this is the best case scenario. If anyone was going to get an idol in this moment, the episode before, Venus was the perfect pick. This episode, Q is the perfect pick to make this fun and exciting and interesting. And he, tells Maria, as he should, at that point, I think was the appropriate strategic thing, and had, full trust that that would be okay to do. And everything's setting up for like, this is going to be fantastic. Maria's number one target, but her ally Q has an idol that no one knows about. Everyone comes back, they get over having to hear about the letters from home and all that. And they head to an immunity challenge that is going to be, with each challenge becomes the most consequential of the season the later you get. But this one for sure, the stakes are pretty clear, I think, of like Maria wins or she's going home, outside of Q being able to save her. And Maria does, in fact, win. She not only wins, she smokes everyone on the puzzle, which, doesn't get there first. Looks like Ben is, out to a solid lead. Looks like Charlie is, for a second, it's like Charlie is the one that could catch Ben. And then 3 seconds later, they pan to Maria, and Maria has done the entire puzzle, and Ben is just standing there looking like, what the hell happened? Yep. And Maria has won immunity for the third time, right?
I think.
Third individual win. I think
second
they've all been
third, yeah.
They've all been maybe one of the first ones was reward only, but I think third individual win. But maybe knowingly or unknowingly saves herself in that moment and continues to increase her threat level and continues to kind of increase her villain score, as far as like, damn it, we should have actually got her out last time, and now here she is. Were you surprised? Did you like the puzzle? I feel like that's maybe the first time I remember seeing that puzzle. They did say at the beginning of the season they were trying to use all new puzzles because of the the printing controversies of past and everything else.
Yes. I like the layout of a lot of the challenges. I really liked both of them today. I really like this week. I really liked the elements of them because you can be ahead and behind at any point and still easily catch up and be in the mix. And Kenzie was a prime example of that when she was far behind, but she made like a decent, I guess, recovery. One of the wider shots, she actually had, it looked like she had most of her base completed. But I did also appreciate that Liz was just like her own cheerleader over at the end, where she couldn't figure it out, got one piece, and she's just like, Liz Wilcox is in the game.
She has had some great commentary the episode before too, or the reward challenge here, excuse me, when she's the only one kind of facing with Charlie and does the puts her leg up over it as it's bleeding and realizes it's bleeding as she like figures out how to get through the maze with her toe. And also Liz
pooped.
Liz pooped. Liz also, though, I had written down, it was hard to see, but I rewound it to make sure it happened. When Jeff is explaining the game to them for this challenge and says it's a dolphin puzzle, Liz makes a dolphin noise. I was just like, that was fantastic.
I appreciated Ben just giggling to it.
So that was all great. I've enjoyed, they've seemed to this season where usually the individual immunities become more and more the standing endurance, like balance or hold something type endurance. These ones have tended to be much more the obstacle course plus puzzle, which is
way better.
Both looks cool and is obviously more enjoyable to watch, because again those other ones are just pretty. It's just kind of like tell me who wins. It's hard for it to be that interesting to look at or watch, outside of Charlie mean mugging and everything like that. But Maria wins, so she's off the chopping block, which means we had to scramble, and it is somewhat up in the air, but as always, it is in the air of like, hey, we could get Q, we could finally do it, and Q is wanting Charlie, and I can't believe we didn't even mention it to now, but we've spent this whole episode with the main storyline really being Charlie had come to grips with Maria being the one they should get. Maria had come to grips with Charlie should be the one that I get. We have maybe one of the best edited scenes I've seen
100%,
ever
100%.
Of the two of them talking on the boat, as mixed with confessionals of the two of them back and forth talking about the same thing. Seemingly as they talk on the boat, they both know I think they both know, or maybe they both don't. I don't know. That was one of the weirder conversations where I'm like, you guys both realize you're both full of shit, right? It's pretty obvious. Neither of you's really trying to hide it. Like Charlie, for the first time, he has been amazing at how his conversations. For the first time, though, when she asks him post reward, like, so what did you guys talk about? What was the name? And he's like, same as always. What is it? Like they want to get Q, and I'm like, this is the first time, Charlie, you're like, this is obvious.
Yeah.
Like this is not a compelling lie at all. Yeah, that scene was definitely one of the best things I've ever watched for sure.
Yeah, it was so good, and it was like it was just so well done, and the contrast between the two conversations and both of them saying, I don't really think that the other one realizes that this is their time to go, and it played so perfectly, and it also is a testament to them as players, because yes, it was edited beautifully, but both of them needed to have those separate confessionals in order for it to be edited beautifully, and it just speaks to both of their abilities to play the game.
Yeah, which again was mid episode, and then Maria wins, and so ruins the chances of that, but kind of sets that up as the dominant story going into the finale. Then that those two now kind of know that they're are comfortable in that decision, and kind of know each one is more than likely trying to do that because they've only got one shot left now to do that. Because here, Charlie, decides there's no one else other than Maria that is really on his radar of like necessity, so it becomes Q. Q obviously smartly is like, it's Maria or Charlie, and so now it's Charlie. And Liz and Kenzie become for the second time in a row kind of the votes that matter, the swing votes that really matter. The decision kind of comes down to them, and they are pitched both sides, and they make it pretty clear, like the only thing going into Tribal was whether Q is going to play as idol or not, because we see Liz and Kenzie lie to Maria and like pretty openly, and then like giggle about it afterwards, and like, that was great that we just lied to her. We're obviously saying Q. Are they missing the boat on Charlie being a threat? Are they accurately maybe reading, like in Kenzie's case? Because I still think, for as much as me, the viewer, is like, Liz has as good a claim as anyone, maybe, of the six of you to win this thing. It does not seem like she is being thought of in that way on the island, or respected in that way. So is Kenzie misreading this at all, that like maybe you should be more worried about Charlie? Is she, I don't know, I was a little shocked that they were so, I mean, I guess, they're whatever, 6 days in and 4 votes into like, we really wanted to get Q out for a long damn time here. And so maybe we should actually just do it, since the only person we wanted more is safe. But I was a little surprised that they didn't think about it a little bit more, I guess. Think about switching to Charlie.
I think for me, because the only thing that we missed about the reward, Kenzie said that Maria made fire the previous night, so she knows how to make fire. But if you're looking at Charlie, Maria, and Q, Charlie and Maria are kind of free agents right now, where they're not, like, yes, they're still really close, but they've both realized that they need to get the other one out. Whereas Q and Maria are pretty much in lockstep right now. Like, they're number ones pretty much. So I think that getting rid of Q, it goes back to, if you can't get rid of the person, you get rid of their closest ally. Because Q is more likely to, well, he could take Maria or put her in fire, or put her in a position where she has to earn her way to the final. And we already know that she can make fire. So if we already know that she can make fire, you don't know how great your fire making ability is. You'd rather tough it out with somebody you haven't seen make fire than somebody you have. And Q, they've been trying to get Q out since, I mean, probably for Kenzie since Yanu Beach, but for Liz at least since the merge. So I don't think it was a misread, but I think that they're going to have a hard time getting rid of Charlie any other way beyond possibly putting him into fire against Maria, which would basically, to me, lock in whoever gets out of that fire as the winner.
Yeah, we'll talk about those scenarios in a second. The one thing, I guess, playing the results here, maybe they're thinking this far ahead, but as much as, yes, if you can't get the person out, get their number one ally out, this is also a way to, if Maria's the number one threat right now, we could have her be left out of a vote, which is what happens, which does at least knock her down a little bit of like, we finally were able to do something that she was not a part of, and she was on the end of the blind side, so to speak, you know,
and
because
she would claim
every vote is a blind side now.
She would claim that Charlie vote too.
Yeah. So I think that might have as much as anything to do with it, of like they've soured on Maria and she's the threat. And so it's like, wait, we can't do the thing that she might get to claim, or we could do the thing that, one, we want to do because we're tired of this guy, and two, could be something she's left out of. So I guess that makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is that Q does not play his idol. And for the 5th time and 4th in a row, someone goes home with an idol in their pocket. And I am confident that we will never see anything like this again on Survivor.
Agreed.
It is astounding that it has happened once. And I had so much confidence in Q. I was like, this guy has to know. I mean, come on, dude. You've been the smoke screen, in your mind, the smoke screen, but in other people's mind, it was a 50-50 decision each time whether to actually vote you out or not. And you got the coin flip right. Lucky, 3 times in a row, 4 times in a row. I've been kind of stunned. Tiff's was explainable. Wasn't that like stunning that she didn't play it?
Yeah.
Hunter's was kind of a little bit stunning that he didn't play it. And Venus's was also kind of like,
Shocking.
on the verge of stunning that she didn't play it. And Q's was the first one where I was like 100% like, you've got to be kidding me that he's not going to play this idol right now.
Well,
there's
especially
only
because
one contest left. There's only like, you don't need it at Final 5, because I think he says at some point to Maria, like, this, because his idol is good at 5, right? They said, so like he could, if he got through this vote, he's guaranteed into fire making at worst, if not Final 3 at best. So I like get the allure of that, but it's like, come on, dude.
You have to get there.
All you have to do is beat Maria once in one challenge finally ever, and or someone else beat Maria because she's still there as your like shield. I was just shocked, and I was also really sad because, damn it, I texted you multiple times, even though we didn't record over last week. I was convinced, and the moment Q found the idol, I was all in on like, I knew it. Q is gonna win this season. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's coming around, and people had started to consider him a threat again in this episode. And I was all in on Q's gonna win, and this is gonna be the greatest thing ever. And then he goes out with an idol because that's what happens on this season, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean the editing, like, props to the editing team, because they set this up so well, where you had the Liz and Kenzie talking about how, yeah, sure, we'll vote for Charlie, and then not. And we saw all the votes. We saw all the votes come through. And that, I think the last time it happened was with Eric on Fans versus Favorites, when he gave his idol away and went out. That, like, it's there in Survivor lore that in theory what's going to happen, and then they did a bait and switch and it didn't happen, because as soon as he doesn't play it, that he's going home. And I can guarantee everybody, like, nobody breathed in that moment watching Survivor this week of whether or not Q was going to play that idol. He must have felt safe somehow, but like that I mean, Maria makes him feel safe, as the last like thing we see before going to tribal is she tells him like, I think we're good. As far as the vote goes. And so this is, I mean, obviously it's worse for Q. He goes home, but not only is Maria not in on the vote now, but like this also felt like somewhat of a layup strategic thing of like, when Q finds that idol and you two know about it, to just be like, we can pitch whatever plan we want, but we're fine if they vote for you, Q. Like, you're just going to play your idol, and the two of us are going to vote out Charlie. We don't even need them to be in on this. Like, we have two votes. We assume the other 4 people aren't going to like, be willing to go 2 and 2, like split the vote in any way. And if they do, they literally have to split it on one of them. So like, they're not going to do that. So it seemed like kind of a layup for them to be like, we're in charge here, dude. Like, me and you, they're going to vote for you. We'll pitch them on our Charlie idea, but we don't have to try that hard because they don't know you have an idol.
and they don't suspect it at all, and you could just play it, and Charlie could be
Yeah.
out, and me and you could be 100% one of us is winning this game. I'll teach you to make fire if you don't know how to make fire. And it could have been a wrap, but it's not. So Q goes home. To recap, Charlie wrote Q skirt, Liz writes his full name Quintavious, and Ben writes Q niece because to make a joke out of Q butchering Venus's name the week before, which I'm sure Venus really appreciated and loved, I hope, because it was fantastic and hilarious. And Maria's lovely message to Charlie via confessional cam is, Charlie got to watch that on TV at home later, once we all did, but does not matter, at least of yet. And now the greatest jury that there's ever been continues to add amazing members, and we head towards a final. So with that, let's hand out some awards to wrap up the recap, and then we will talk finale scenarios and winners. So awards, starting with quote from either episode 11 or 12. I'm sure there was a bunch. Do you have your list ready to go here with nominees for best quote from either of these two episodes?
I do. So, we've got either you're telling a really dumb lie or a really dumb truth, which was a Kenzie. And honestly, I'm going to keep it simple. My winner is they say you can see Venus from Earth, but you can't see Venus at this camp anymore.
Yeah, and to build that out, the extended version was tribal went exactly as it should. They say you can see Venus from Earth, but you don't see Venus no more in this camp. Venus thought that she could rally the troops and send me packing. Psh, you could cancel Christmas, girl. That will never happen. So we get what ends up being, I'm sure he'll find a way to work it into his final tribal question of like, how would you cancel Christmas if you got to cancel Christmas?
Big mistake.
Probably our final cancel Christmas of the season from Q. Yeah, that was my definitive winner too.
Yeah, it was so good.
I think I usually highlight my quotes and moments so they're easy to see in my notes, and I think I just went back and didn't even highlight anything else because I was like, well, this is gonna win. So
it was on par with the Shane and CT elimination on the challenge, where somebody said after all those cookies you're not going to see your abs, and CT countered with after all these cookies you're not going to see Shane.
Yeah, it was so good. So that's the best quote. Good job, Q. As for favorite moment,
there's a lot.
There is a lot. So let's see. I'll just talk 11 first here. Liz sleeping at camp while everyone else looks. We mentioned that. Fantastic stuff from Liz, as always. Venus calming herself, but then still adding the little skip and kick in after she found the idol. I had mentioned that one. I think Venus and Kenzie looking for the idol, and when Venus has found it, and she's the kingpin talk about Maria, and I had written down in the moment, Kenzie's like talking, Maria's the kingpin, Maria's got the best story, she's got the best moves, like she's gonna beat all of us, and you could see so badly on Venus's face, Venus so desperately wants to be like, I disagree. I think I do, but I'm not going to say anything right now. And whether maybe she wasn't actually thinking that, but I think she might have been. And that interaction was fantastic. And then let's see, the end of the game, which we didn't even mention, the real moment when Venus drops the ball, looks like she's going to win, and this is just setting up to be the greatest episode ever, and then she misses and Maria wins. All of them being right at the end of that table game together at the same time was fantastic, and just the moment Venus drops is just excruciating now, but was a big moment. And then obviously rock paper scissors, so that was just episode 11. I had all of that. I had one more, and then Liz, when they come back post pizza, and Liz tells Maria to her face, like, that was kind of weird, and then calls Q an ass, and Q walks up, and Liz is like, I don't care. I'm going to keep, they try to tell her, like, hey, shush. And she's like, no, Q, I just called you an ass, and I think you suck. And, I'm not going to stop, expressing myself for the sake of someone else's feelings. So that was 7 moments from episode 11 alone.
You, yeah,
any other episode 11 ones to add?
I think you hit every single one that I had. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, especially the idol hunt with Kenzie and Venus. You could almost add the Benny Hill soundtrack to that, and it would be accurate. Like at one point, Kenzie was digging through rocks, and Venus was quite literally just hitting leaves.
And Kenzie in confessional was, again, because they kind of have the wrong read of Venus the whole time here, but is like, yeah, she maybe, could this be suspicious? No, maybe, but like, I think she just doesn't care. I think she just doesn't want to try, and so it's whatever. Venus is just being Venus. It's like, yeah, this is so great. Any episode 12 moments then to add to this long list?
Yeah, Ben trying to explain to Kenzie the accidental vote, followed by Charlie and Kenzie completely razzing him on the walk, and then finished off by Kenzie bringing it up again at Tribal Council. Liz being very excited that she pooped was fantastic. Yes,
and I'm so excited for her.
Especially like their final six, and after that whole proclamation, she's like, I'm ready to play. It's like, awesome. You've made it quite far just needing to poop. And then seeing all the votes, because the whole edit was just like built up to be the other thing. And the only other thing that I had other than Ben writing out Q-Niece, just as a jab at Q, and the fact that they're totally just like bickering siblings at this point, of just like neither of them totally like the other, but they have to deal with each other. And I think it was Ben in the challenge when I think Jeff said like Ben and Kenzie neck and neck, and then Ben immediately dropped it, and he just goes, nope, just Kenzie.
Yeah, that was good. All those are great, and I'm gonna give my runner up to Liz making the dolphin noise, but
yes,
I think the winner has to be what we talked about earlier, the dual confessionals between Charlie and Maria. Again, was just one of the most compelling 2-minute stretches of an episode that we've seen, and was just great setup for then the challenge that followed it and everything else. So that's my surefire winner out of a lot of amazing nominees from both of these episodes. Best and worst gameplay. Worst, what should be pretty easy. Venus and Q went home with idols in their pocket. We discussed Venus, the turning point was her conversation with Charlie, kind of blew up that, and then not realizing maybe in the moment that had blown up enough that you should play the idol. Q and Maria not realizing they didn't need to rally votes and could have just played the idol and got the thing done and set themselves up. I think we've kind of covered the worst stuff pretty unequivocally. I mean,
Maria's handling of the reward challenge on the previous episode as well. I will say,
I guess actually, the rock paper scissors might have been worse strategy than the play the idol, honestly.
Yeah, true. I think that the one thing I'm going to combine worst and best move, because the fact that we do have worst moves of Venus and Q not playing their idols means that in contrast, we have to have the best moves of everybody else, making them feel so comfortable that they did not play their idols. Because a lot of the conversation online is like, these guys are stupid, they're not playing idols. It's like, no, like everybody else is playing to the point where they're making them feel absolutely comfortable as they send them out the door.
Yeah, I think Charlie is the only one that I would say got there was as much luck as there was skilled, blindsiding or trickery happening, because that was the only one that I was like, again, maybe it's just the vantage point we have and seeing immediately afterwards, but like I felt like Liz and Kenzie's lies weren't the best, most foolproof. I felt like they, the read of the room should have been like, I might be going home here. Like this would be pretty tough. So Q not playing his idol is the one that I feel like there's a little bit more luck involved. I do think it was adept gameplay, yes, to convince Venus not to, convince Hunter, convince Tiff, the whole run of all the people that have went home with idols in their pockets. Episode MVP we can split this one up for 11 and 12, deserving. I think multiple people deserve it. I'm definitely saying Venus for 11.
Yep.
And then 12 is I mean, obviously Liz always has a case for MVP because she's so fantastic. Um, but Q, Maria, and Charlie, all three are pretty prominent players in the episode, and prominent in the ultimate decision. So I'm a little torn on who between those three to give it to for episode 12.
I will say Charlie for episode 12 because he has the best route forward now. Because as of the results of episode 12, Charlie now knows that Maria voted for him because it's the only way that it makes sense. And nobody else voted for him. On top of that, when he went to Maria and said, "We're going to vote for Q," she just immediately said yes. There was no hesitation. And like, it was way too quick for her to just be like, "Yep, absolutely." And then just carry on. So I think that I have to give it to Charlie, because Q's gone and Maria is not in the best social position in the game. Now, it could be a matter of everybody gets back to camp, realizes that yes, they were able to pull that off, but it was Charlie's kind of gameplay that enabled them to pull it off. So it could be that Charlie goes home next, but I would say for now, Charlie, and an honorable mention to Liz's daughter for daring her to apply, because a Lizless season 46 would be quite lacking.
Yeah, well, so Venus and Charlie, and respectfully to Q, you don't need another episode MVP because, spoiler alert, you're the season MVP, and I'm probably not going to even have to think about that again between now and when we hand out that award. So yeah, Venus and Charlie, those are your MVPs of episodes 11 and 12. And now let's talk not power rankings, but predictions. Let's talk finale and what we think will happen. So before we dive into the final five, we did have one listener question. Was it something we already covered, or what did we have there?
I would say that it's something that we will likely cover coming up, so this is a great jumping off point. It's from Annie. Thank you, Annie. What do we think that the fallout will be between Charlie and Maria now that Charlie knows that she's definitely taken the first shot, as it were? Because we didn't really get anything in the preview. We basically got nothing related to that at all.
Yeah. Which also, just because you referenced the preview, there's been a lot of people online that were somewhat upset and or like shocked to look back, and there is a moment in the trailer for this season that shows the 4 of the 5 people's feet and legs that are walking. That is the final 5 promo. And so they're like, oh my God, like how could they have told us the final 5? And I'm like, well, first of all, you can only see 4 people's legs in this. And second of all, in the trailer, we don't know that they walk down the beach and do shots of them walking down the beach all the time. And we don't know whose feet and legs those are. And so like, sure, if you for some reason remembered that moment from the trailer, you could go back 8 episodes in and try to figure out and be like, I think that might be the final like 4 or whatever. And like, whose legs are those? And like Kenzie, or the tattoos, we know Kenzie for sure. Whatever. I don't know. It was a very silly thing that I thought people were upset about. So that tangent aside, I would say the fallout from the two of them isn't any different because of the vote than what it was. Like it makes it easier for Charlie, but
yeah,
they had both realized we're probably each other's biggest threat. And there's only one time left to get that person out now at 5. And so I think it makes it easier maybe mentally for Charlie to do. It makes the conversations different because I don't think they're going to, they're not going to have to lie to each other or anything. They're both, it's out in the open now. She voted for you. But the end goal has not changed at all. They both are going to be, I would assume, if one of them wins the final, the last immunity challenge here, or the final 5 immunity challenge, they're gonna, the other one's gonna be the number 1 target. And if neither of them wins, then they're gonna be arguing their case to the other 3 of which of the 2 of us should you keep for 4 or not. And I see it being pretty difficult for either of them making a case to end up both in the final 4. I feel like this immunity challenge is basically like, Charlie or Maria, one of you win. Like you kind of have to win this to get into the final 4, or you better damn hope that the other one doesn't, and you can argue your way, because it's kind of a 2-person two-person battle here, I feel like, to make Final Four with Kenzie, Ben, and Liz.
Yeah, I think that 100% what it's going to come down to, that alliance is going to come down to the Final Five vote. Because, like you said, whoever wins immunity, the other one is likely the target. Or who, if they don't win, it's going to come down to, it might get heated. But for the most part, I think that everybody there understands that these are the two that you need to get out in order to get to the end and have a chance at winning. So it's unfortunate for the other three that there's still two of those people left in the final five. But I think that that's what it's going to come down to. I think that this was part one, and the start of next week's episode is part two. That we will see one of them go out at final five, and then, as has been our custom, we lose somebody big at the final five, and then we lose somebody big at fire.
Well, so let's just say one of those two goes out at five, Charlie or Maria.
Yep.
And then whoever's left of those two, based on results so far, is a somewhat heavy favorite to win the final immunity challenge. Because I think the two of them have won
probably like 80% of them.
All of them. Hunter and Q each won one, and Kenzie won one of the two winner one.
Yeah.
Where I don't remember if Charlie or Maria either one was on her team even.
No, they were on the other team.
Yeah. So, Charlie and Maria, if in this group of five that's left are, undefeated basically, in some ways in the immunity challenges. So if they go to fire though, then it becomes like Charlie and Maria, either one of them, if they're left, if they win that, like they're probably throwing themselves in fire, maybe.
Probably.
They probably don't feel like they have to, but to like not give. Basically, Kenzie is the other like threat here because, again, respectfully to Ben, who is amazing, I don't know how. I don't know.
It would
There's
be
no path to me.
It would it would
votes.
be, I think, mostly like a social game win.
But even that, I'm like, there's no like you have to sit there with Kenzie, Charlie, or Maria, at least one of them, and so like. I don't know what he's arguing social game over Kenzie.
Well, and even Liz, like, because Liz comes from a marketing background. Liz being coming from a marketing background and Q being a real estate agent, they were the two that I was like, Final Tribal would be so interesting with the two of them because they've had games that the other players haven't necessarily paid attention to or totally maybe respected. It's probably not the right word, but it's the word that I'm going to use.
Yeah.
But I think that they could both explain their case to a point where they could sway a couple votes. Other than people who are going to vote for Ben because they like him and they think he's a stand-up guy, or they are annoyed at the other two, I don't know if he has the social capital to get many votes. I think unfortunately, as much as I do love Ben, that he is going to join the ranks as a 0 vote finalist if he makes the end.
Yeah, I just truly don't see a single person on the jury who's gonna vote for him over any of the people he'd have to sit next to. For even if they like him, again, like it's like there isn't two unlikable people. Maybe if it was Maria, if Q was still here and it was Q and Maria, two people unliked, then Ben could like sneak out a vote or two of like, well, we like that person and we don't like those two people. But so I think he's guaranteed to be in the final three and to be, I think he's guaranteed, I guess, unless he wins the final four immunity challenge and puts himself in fire, to be the you're coming to final three with me person.
He has to basically take out both Charlie and Maria in a commanding role in order
which there's no chance of them throwing like an idol or an advantage or something in the game for the final five. So
no, they will do an advantage. They'll do like what they have
advantage in the challenge. Yeah. But there isn't like a way, there isn't something that can enter the game for him to like on his own, take full credit and manipulate somehow picking between Charlie or Maria or anything. So
no, not unless they do put Q's back in. It would be weird if they put it back in for Final Five, knowing that Final Five's the last time you can use it. But
yeah, I just don't think that would be.
I don't think that
silly.
they will, especially with like 4 going out consecutively.
Maybe Jeff can say to the camera, "Look, we weren't gonna do this, but no one's played an idol the whole season, so we're gonna let someone try to play one. I don't know, but
yeah, the only things that have been played the entire game were Maria's extra vote for Gem that she didn't totally need to do, Mo playing the shot in the dark that didn't land, and Jess basically being strong armed to play a fake idol that she knew was a fake idol, and those are the only advantages that have actually been played in the game.
Yeah, so I think Charlie's going to win the final 5 immunity, and they're going to get Maria out. And then I think Charlie's going to win again.
Yeah.
And is going to have the decision of how big of a threat is Kenzie or not. And I weirdly think I've seen, and this is based on a lot of people kind of starting to say this too online. And I'm a little nervous about it. I love Kenzie to death, but I'm wrestling with the pure everyone likes me and I was like, socially ingratiated with everyone winner. But there is some like, if it's Maria, Kenzie, and Ben or Liz, like, is Kenzie going to beat Maria now because people don't like Maria? Like, there's going to be enough jurors that don't like Maria and are mad at Maria. And pending if Liz is on the jury or sitting next to them, or either way, being able to bring up the, and really hammer home the, like, you did, like, that was such a colossal F up on your part of, like, not that you didn't take me, but just the way you worded it and the rock, paper, scissors thing and, like, all this. And then you were so mad about the reward right after that. And then you were then you weren't in on the vote a couple of times and the whole thing. So I feel like there is some, if it's Maria and Kenzie, that, like, it's 50-50 for me. Kenzie could find a way to win that. I think if Charlie is there, he's really a really good talker, and I don't think he would stumble enough to let Kenzie overtake him. I think he has plenty to show game wise. Everyone likes him, and he's really, really good at talking and explaining everything. And I think if Charlie's there, he gets the win over Maria or Kenzie. How do you feel about that?
I think that Charlie would win in most scenarios where he gets to the end. I think that if Maria is at the end with someone like Kenzie, then the best option would be for Q to stand up at the beginning and basically say, if you're not voting for Maria, it's because you're bitter that she outplayed you, not because she played a bad game. And I feel like he's the one who would do it. It's happened a couple of times in past seasons where somebody has stood up pretty much at the outset and said, like, look, this person outplayed us, this person outwit us, and this person outlasted us. Like, they did everything that they needed to do in this game, and if you aren't voting for them, then that's because you're mad that they did all of those better than you. Otherwise, I think that if Charlie makes it there, he's probably going to win. I would say that if you get a combination of Charlie winning Final Four immunity, I think that on the one hand, I feel like he would take Ben because they've been together from the beginning. On the other hand, I can see him putting Ben and Liz into fire, taking Kenzie with him to the end because he feels like he can outmaneuver her in
doesn't
the
want to give her one more thing.
Exactly. He doesn't want to give her one more piece to her resume of being able to take somebody out at fire. Even if it's somebody that the jury may not view as, like, the intended winner of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then she could say, I won twice. Like, I won an immunity, and I did win fire or whatever, so there's, like, a little bit there. I'm just trying to wrap my head. The only way I think if Charlie was in the final 3 that I think he would lose is if it was somehow Charlie, Maria, and Kenzie would, like, get 3 or 4 votes, and Charlie and Maria maybe would split some them. Votes that they would have. But I just don't see any way Charlie and Maria are both in the final 3.
No, I don't know how that happens.
I mean, Charlie, maybe Maria wins the final 5 immunity, and Charlie finds a way to convince people to vote Kenzie out instead of him. But I just really don't know how. Ben's gonna not voting for Kenzie over Charlie. Liz
not
isn't.
On purpose.
not on purpose. He could have an accident again. I don't think Liz is going to be convinced to vote Kenzie out over Charlie. And Maria, I mean, maybe there's like some like you tried once before. Like, come on, we said we were going to go to the end together. Let's do it. Like, go back on it. Like, I think she'd be like, I'm
we
sorry,
took one
buddy.
shot at each other. Now we have to sit together.
So I just don't see any way those two end up in final together. And that's my most logical way of Charlie being at final 3 and losing. So I just don't think, I don't know. I feel pretty good about if he gets there, he's going to win. If he doesn't, then I think it's a toss up between Kenzie and Maria, even though I do think that would be a little bit based on people not liking, being like upset that Maria outplayed them. But there is enough to grasp onto now of like, you did have that big F up and then compounded it by like, you were not in on the vote and, you know, could
you were
be
not loyal. You tried to take out your number one, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Like so there's enough that could work against her where they could be like, Kenzie was never the leader of any votes, sure, but like she was in on basically all, like she voted for the right person basically every time. Everyone loves her.
Way to a win.
She had all the info at all the times, and so I think those are your 3 possibilities. With respect to, again, Liz, in my mind, and maybe she can pull it off, you know, marketing whiz that she is, but like is the one who can be like Tevin and Soda. I know it's been a while, but like I am the one that actually did that more than it was a group effort, but I was the actual leader of that more than anyone else. I was the swing vote for multiple of these things. You know, has some things to really claim to, but again, I don't think it's been recognized, and I don't know that she can talk her way into it. And it would really behoove her to, of course it would, you know, to win, but if she could win one of these immunity challenges and or fire too, to be able to be like, I also was like showed late in the game that like I was, you know, good at that part of it too, would go a long way. Cause right now she does not. Again, you know, Charlie and Maria are the only 2 that can be like, we won all of the immunity stuff. So like we were good at that part of the game. It is a part of the game. You do have to like respect that, you know, that is, you know, puts you in a powerful position. So yeah, I think that's where I've landed going into the finale.
And for me, and one thing that I will state very proudly, very loudly, and will not back down on, there's not going to be a bad winner of 46.
Yeah, I don't think Kenzie would in any way be a bad winner. I'm just wrestling with the like.
Oh no, exactly.
Can you win? Should you win the game purely on social, like being great socially with everyone, and with that, and like, because I kind of usually am like kind of against the like you have to do this big resume thing and check all the boxes, and I'm like, I don't think you should have to do that either. But the idea of someone winning that doesn't have a real like one move that could even one kind of move that's like that was there doing, but was just like steadily good. Everyone likes you. You always have the info, so you're always on the right side of the vote. Which I think, as I'm saying it out loud, like I'm pretty good. I actually am maybe into that being like the way to win this game and like as deserving as anything else.
She knew when she had to take the shot on Tiff. It was just a matter of Maria basically took that move from her and finished it. Like Kenzie had all the blueprints, and
her only mistake was so early in the game that I doubt. I mean, and Tiff at least, you know, still loves her, so wouldn't bring up like you did for some reason. You decided when it was me, you, Q, and Banu to ask Banu if he wanted to try to get me or Q out. But like that was your only mistake, and it was on day 4 or whatever.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And I don't think Tiff would bring that up, and I think Q doesn't isn't going to bring it up either. Isn't trying to like bring down Kenzie's game or anything. Just, you know, Kenzie doesn't like him, but he doesn't feel the same way back. Isn't like vindictive back or anything. So yeah, I think that one of those 3 is winning though. What would be your preferred final 3?
I mean, honestly, preferred final 3, and there's no way it'll happen, would be Maria, Kenzie, Charlie. Just because,
I think that'd be the most interesting. Yeah, I would be like, I actually do think any of the 3 of you could find a way to win this.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think that everyone there, like, I'm happy if they win. I would secretly be really happy if Liz won, because it would piss off the people who've been bitching about her the entire season. And I'm that level of petty. And I also think that Liz could actually explain her game quite well if she got to the end. But I would say my ideal final three, based on how I feel like the next episode's going to go, would probably be Liz, Kenzie, and Charlie. No disrespect to Ben and Maria, but I don't see a world where Charlie, Kenzie, and Maria all sit together. So the most compelling arguments would come from Liz and Charlie and Kenzie, because they each have played a very different game, but they each got to the end. And actually, they're all from the three.
Yeah, I like
tribes.
that they're the three different tribes. Yeah, those would be the most fun options to me. I think my prediction for what is going to happen is I think Maria is going to win at Final Five. They're going to vote out Charlie. Maria is either going to win and or be put in fire and win fire. And the final three is going to be Maria, Kenzie, and Ben. And I think Kenzie's going to win. I think that's where I've landed. I think she's going to beat Maria in like a. How many people will vote? How many people will be on the jury?
7?
8? 7?
8? 9?
8, because it went 12 was the merge, and Tim didn't get to be on the jury. So that means there was 11 people that were jury or final three. So yeah, 8 and 3. I think Kenzie would win like 5-3 vote in that scenario. So that's my prediction. But yeah, I don't know how Charlie can not win immunity and finagle his way to vote out Liz or Kenzie instead, and somehow Liz and not Kenzie. And yeah, just there's a 0% chance we can get a Kenzie, Maria, Charlie final three. But what if I'm not thinking of something? I want that something to happen.
Yeah, because that's that would be stunning to watch.
Yeah.
Because I think
the three different tribe though one too is also actually, I hadn't really thought of like Liz, Charlie, and Kenzie would be fun to hear them all say completely different games. And I would have to go back and look to it. How many votes has Liz been on the right side of and Kenzie been on the right side of? Is Liz that far behind Kenzie in being able to say, I voted for basically everyone that's over there? Like,
I don't think
she was left out one time because she got upset about it.
She got left out. Yeah, she got left out once, and then Kenzie got left out once.
Yeah, because Kenzie was left out of the tip. So actually, I don't know. Liz could talk her way into like, maybe I wasn't as social butterfly as Kenzie, but I think I provided as much entertainment to you all on the beach as Kenzie. I think you all enjoyed having me around in the Liz experience.
Well, and also like her tribe didn't go to tribal.
Yeah. So, okay.
Whereas Kenzie's went to every tribal.
Lots of good options. I'm very much looking forward to it. And it's what, a 2-hour episode?
I think so. And then there's probably an
2 hour and then an hour long reunion. We don't know this, but they read the votes in person again, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
They stuck with that.
I feel that they'll keep doing that from a production standpoint, which is irritating. 50. Yeah, it's irritating because I would like to see those people present day, especially with all the social media interactions they've been having.
Yeah, they should. Should Survivor add in a real reunion now after like a non-vote read? Full reunion, because obviously they want to get Jelensky on the screen again.
Exactly.
He's
going to be the returning player for 40 several. And manifesting.
I would be fine with him on 40 several. He does it. It would, I think, be a wasted spot on season 50 based on there's too many other people on this part. Like, I don't want them to pull more than like 2 or 3 people from, if they do 18 and there's 9 seasons to pick from, it would be hard to say a season should have more than like 3 people accounted for. And obviously I feel like he would be taking Q or Venus's or Liz's or Charlie's spot or Maria's or whatever. I'm like, I don't think so, buddy. Sorry.
No.
You've been mentioned damn near every episode after being voted out first. Like, take that as the biggest win of all time and be happy.
And like a perfect setup for 40 several. Like,
you can be Bruce. You can be the Bruce. And
they haven't cast yet either. So like the fact that they haven't cast yet, I don't think so. They were still
finished it.
They were still talking production side of things when On Fire started. So because they do like 2 seasons together, and then they film 2 seasons together. So I don't think that they've.
Maybe they'll do 3 seasons back to back to back here, because then it'll be weird. Like 49 to 50 will be kind of its own different thing. So
because then you might have to pull people from 49 that people haven't seen before 50, like when you had Russell come back for Heroes versus Villains before they saw his season, and then Malcolm came back for Fans versus Favorites 2 before his actual season aired.
Yeah. Okay. Well, a lot to look forward to in Survivorland. We will be back to cover it all sometime next weekend and discuss the winner. And with that, yeah, make sure to follow, subscribe wherever you're listening. Hit us up on Instagram. Those links are in the show notes. And otherwise, Tony, I will talk to you next week.
Yes. Have a good one.